Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What Exit Jersey Stories. I'm your host, Nick Franco, and with me, as always,
is Pete Riario.
Pete, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes, shall I? Let me start. So our next guest is best known as the guitarist for the highly successful American rock band Trixter. Their early 1990s debut release went on to sell over 500,000 copies, achieved gold record status, and their single, Give It To Me Good, rocketed to the number 26 spot on the Billboard mainstream rock charts. Within 1 week, the video was #1 on the Dial MTV Top 10 Video Countdown, remained there for 5 weeks straight. He's had the honor of doing shows with Def Leppard, handily, filling in both for Vivian Campbell and Phil Collin on separate occasions, and did the same for Dennis DeYoung of Styx fame. He's also the guitarist for Tokyo Motor Fist with Ted Poley from Danger Danger. Steve has a new single out called Where Do We Run and is a singer, songwriter, and producer extraordinaire. I call him the Swiss Army knife of American musicians, the pride of Paramus, Steve Brown.
What's happening, guys? Thank you for that unbelievable introduction. Wow. If I didn't know myself so well, I'd be somewhat impressed. No, I'm impressed with you. You did good. I was like sitting there. Oh, really? I didn't know that either. I always love finding out new things.
Right? I know. I locked myself up in a bank vault and just research for.
Yeah, we definitely try to do our research on our show.
The advantage of
see that.
I have the advantage of having seen Trixter way back when I was a young lad, like 17, 16 years old, at the China Club in Hillsdale, New Jersey.
Oh God!
And I'm sure, Steve, you remember those days fondly. Pete Tersher, right, was the guy there, right? The
Pete
manager there.
That was the China Club was where Trixter and a lot of other bands from the area, from the northern New Jersey area, but also bands from all over the country came and played there. I remember opening up Trixter. We opened up for the great band Savatage back in the day.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
John Olivia and Chris Olivia.
Yeah. Chris Oliva, the guitar player, sadly, who got killed years ago. But man, it was an honor to play with those guys. So yeah, the China Club was the club that basically Trixter. We honed our craft there, playing, I would say, once a month from, I think it was April of 1986. We started playing there, doing these Sunday night all ages, which anybody from Bergen County will remember.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Remember that?
Great parking lot. It was the King's Shopping Center, and there was a Friendlies. There was a Friendlies in the parking lot.
Was it even King's at that point, or was it Stop and Shop? It might have been like way long ago. Stop and Shop and Medimart.
I don't know, man, but I'm pretty sure it was King's. But I got to tell you, man, we had some of the greatest times of our lives there because, as you can imagine, I was 15 years old when I started playing there, and it was a magical time in rock and roll, and especially a magical time in northern New Jersey because. That was right before 1986 was right before Slippery When Wet took off, the whole Bon Jovi, when Bon Jovi took over the world. So, there was a whole, really cool group of bands that would play there, and it's very varied. It wasn't just, the 80s hard rock bands that played there. There were a lot of metal bands that played there.
Yes.
There was a great band that I was a huge fan of, this band Pharaoh. I don't know if you remember them, but
I even have the record of Pharaoh, actually.
I still have it back there, the vinyl, man. I love that band. And so, for all the listeners and viewers who were never there back in the day, any given Sunday night, it was these all ages nights. And, Pete Tersher, who was the guy who was in a, band, Tersha, who was a Judas Priest cover band. And he started this thing, and he had great foresight to know that, young kids needed a place to go to see shows. And he started putting on these concerts there. And it was what I was saying, what was really cool about the China Club was it would be like the bill would be Trixter, another great band, SS Steel, which was like a real metal band. And then Pharaoh, which was kind of like, again, my description of them, they were like Kiss meets Duran Duran meets Billy Idol meets the New York Dolls.
Dead on.
And
Yeah.
Wow.
you know, it was fucking amazing, man. It
Yeah.
was really, really cool. And, you know, somehow all of these bands playing together, it made sense, you know, and it was a real great community of bands because we would all sort of take care of each other. You know, the SS Steel guys, you know, Steve Maz, who's one of my best friends in the world.
Played with him.
You know, when I first met those guys, man, dude, I was, you know, a guy who was wearing, you know, fluorescent clothes. Trickster, when we started playing, we were dressing like Van Halen did on the 5150 tour.
Oh, wow.
We were wearing all the colorful clothes and blazers. And then SS Steel comes in, man. These guys are like hardcore biker metal dudes. Metallica meets Motorhead. Man, they scared the shit out of me. But, you know, and you know, but it was really funny because, you know, the guys in Faro would be in, and the China Club had this dressing room that was a broom closet, basically. And you'd have three bands in there. And these guys, you know, the Faro guys and the SS Steel guys were much older than us. You know, and so they were doing things in the dressing room that, let's say, I never saw before, you know, and it was like, whoa, I was scared of those guys. And as time went on, you know, of course, we got to be such great friends. But in the beginning, man, it was like rock and roll, high school education, college. You know, you're going to meet these guys where, you know, we're used to seeing, you know, all happy go lucky. And then you're seeing these, you know, it was a real incredible learning experience. And again, it was where I think all the bands that played there, we developed our chops and honed, and we learned what things worked and what things didn't. And you know, I know for Trickster, we learned really early on that girls are the ticket for packing the house. And luckily, man, when we started going up the ladder and success started happening, and all of a sudden be like, you know, yeah, you guys sold 200 tickets tonight. You guys sold 225, 253, sold out at like 300, man. That was some good times. And then, you know, we all know the story, wherever the girls are, guys will follow. So it was just magic, man. It was a great, great time in Bergen County. And, you know, all of us, we used to keep all the gear at my parents' house, you know, in Paramus. And so we would load up all the cars and vans with all the gear, you know, bring it up from my basement. And then we'd head out to the China Club. And then we'd come back at, you know, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning after we were partying afterwards. And, you know, we had to be real quiet on my street to make sure that, you know, Vinny Joya, who was Gus's drum tech at the time, a couple of times he dropped the cymbals like at 1 o'clock in the morning. All the neighbors were freaked out. So it was,
and Paramus is like a real blue collar town. You know, you didn't want, like, you know, the local guy probably has to get up like 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we had that. We also had, my dad was the vice principal at Eastbrook Middle School down the street. So,
oh wow,
here he was, you know, the vice principal, and his son's, you know, his son wants to be a rock and roll star. But, you know, again, man, I tell everybody wherever I go around the world, and people ask me stories about New Jersey, and I just, you know, and still to this day, I live here. I'm up in Ringwood now, but Bergen County is just so vital, I think, to all of us. And you guys, I'm sure you have the same stories, you know, where back in the day, you know, the LA bands had the Sunset Strip, the Bergen County bands, we had the shopping malls. That's where we promoted our shows. You know, and I was telling my mom and dad, you know, and some friends a couple weeks ago that our Saturday ritual before every China Club show was to go to Paramus Park, go to the Garden State Plaza, go to the Bergen Mall, and we would hand out flyers to all the girls, man. And it
my God.
It was, you know, it was Instagram before there was social media. That was the way we had to do it, and it worked.
And Steve, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, do you remember the wild turkey that was in Paramus Park, that statue?
Yeah.
What was that all about?
You know, it's funny, man. I was just there a couple weeks ago. We went with my mom and dad, and my wife and my daughter. We went to go get some Christmas, some ski jackets, some birthday gift for my little daughter, you know, my 9-year-old daughter, Jade. And we were just reminiscing about Paramus Park, about, you remember the waterfall or whatever, that rock thing that was there. It was just such a cool place, as was the Bergen Mall, the fountain in the middle of the Bergen Mall.
Yeah, that like rounded fountain over there at Bergen.
Yeah, that was, again, all those malls at that time in the 70s and the 80s were so great. And then, one of the great things about the Bergen Mall, and my wife and I, we were at Cheap Trick the other night at the Wellmont Theater.
Oh,
and I
awesome.
I saw my good friend Rob Cavuto, who's a photographer, and I think he's got an online guitar magazine. Long story short, he used to work at World Imports. So anybody,
oh my God, yes,
remembers World Imports. And dude,
I used to go there all the time.
You and me both. I'm sure we saw each other there. I think I still have some posters and some Kiss and Van Halen pictures that I bought there. But that was a place, that I spent me and all my friends, we spent so much time at World Imports just talking and looking at all the posters and the tour books. And, it was such a great, again, Jersey, what exit? I can't stress how great Bergen County, it still is, but how great it was if you were into rock and roll in the 70s and 80s, especially to grow up during that time, because you had all the great record stores. You had, Disco Mat on Route 4.
Oh, yeah.
Harmony Hut, all, and then, let's go to the most important stores for me, which was Sam Ash Music.
Right on 4 as well.
Where I bought my first real good guitars, and I would spend all my after schools there playing Van Halen songs and playing all the Kramer and Charvel guitars before I could afford one. So, and that was it. And then the other, famous place for me was the great music store Musically Yours in Maywood, right on.
Yes, I used to take lessons there.
Me too, man. I mean, that
holy crap.
1978. I started taking guitar lessons there, and it changed my life forever.
But who was the owner there? Was it Ed? Was the guy's name?
Yes. Yep. He was great. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit on a great point. Like earlier, is that when I used to go to the China Club, we would also go see Hades, a very heavy band.
Yeah.
But then you guys would be playing a week later. We'd go see you guys. There was like this unity. It didn't matter that, Hades was a heavier, thrashier band. This was just good music. That was
right.
That's what the kids went for.
Of course.
And so, that there was no really like, a line, in the sand between the bands. I felt like I could listen to, Mucky Pup playing at the China Club and enjoy them and love you guys just as much. It just you all born entertainers,
Yeah, well, that's the point I was trying to make about that, how unique it was. And I tell this story a lot, when we finally got signed and went out to LA to do our first record, and I heard all the stories, but there's a big difference as far as the camaraderie, the Jersey kind of friendship bond that all the bands had with each other. And, whether it was the Northern New Jersey, Bergen County bands, Trickster, TNA, Sidekicks, SS Steel, I could go on and on thinking about all these great bands, Pharaoh and Prowler and Hades. And then you go when we became extremely tight with the Skid Row guys, who were the South Jersey guys. And then you had Skid Row, you had Prophet, you had Edgar Casey, you had TT Quick. And TT Quick is another band that Trickster opened for at the China Club, which was, incredible, because I remember being a little kid getting the Aquarian Weekly and seeing TT Quick, White Tiger and Twisted Sister before Twisted Sister got signed. So to play with TT Quick, and, Mark Tornillo is still a dear friend. And, those guys, again, we learned a lot from every band. It was like, again, what I said about going to rock and roll high school, we learned what to do and what not to do by playing that. And it was always, I think we subconsciously always knew every night we're going to have to, it was a battle, because you always wanted to put on the best show. But at the same time, what are you going to learn from the other bands? And I think, but, long story short, getting back to the LA thing, when we went to LA, I learned very quickly how dog eat dog it was. And those bands, man, they would, if you were going out, if you were sharing a bill with a band, they would unplug your amps. They would do anything to try to sabotage the show. Where if we were having a bad night, if I, like, let's say, blew up a head, you know, and I told this story on an interview last week, we played Mingles down in Sayreville, New Jersey. And I remember it was like the worst night, man. I blew up like 2 or 3 Marshall heads. Scotty Hill from Skid Row was there, and him and Snake lived a block away. He ran home and grabbed his Marshall, the Silver Jubilee that he used on the first record. He brought it back for me to at least be able to finish the last couple songs. And, you know, that would never happen with LA bands, man. They would never do that. So, you know, I always talk about, you know, and I think Bon Jovi coined the phrase, the brotherhood, the New Jersey brotherhood. We all had that mentality to where, hey man, this is a party. Whether you're a heavy metal band, whether you're a pop metal band like we were, or whether you're, let's say, a glam, you know, Duran or 80s new wave band, sort of the way Pharaoh was, let's all have fun together and let's all try to help each other make it big, you know?
And so, Steve, like in the 80s, you know, when Trixter blew up alongside all the other bands that, you know, were popular at the time, like, let's say, you know, Cinderella, Skid Row and all that, did you find that there was competition, I mean, amongst the bands, amongst the 80s bands of, you know, of that ilk, I would say?
Or was it more the friendly competition as you're like describing, like the brotherhood, but competitive brotherhood versus the LA competition?
And I'm saying, like, when you were touring, you know, when you were doing arenas and all that, like, did you feel a need, or not a need, but
well, I mean, the need for us, I mean, look, I grew up in an athletic family, so there was always that drive to be the best you can be, you know, on all fronts. So it was, you know, we put on a very energetic performance, and whatever we lacked in musical ability, we certainly made up for in stage presence. And so it was always that mentality where, well, if we're not going to be, you know, the best singers or the best drummer, best bass, well, we're going to put on the best show. We're going to put on the most high energy show because, you know, again, I never wanted to be anything else but what Trixter became, which was when I started the band, and it was from seeing, you know, Van Halen for the first time, 1982 on the Diver Down tour.
Oh, wow.
I had seen Kiss, my first show, 1979. That was mind-blowing and life-changing. But I knew that Kiss was so unrealistic, and they were like superheroes. When I saw Van Halen in 1982, that was the moment where I said, this is exactly the type of band I want to have. I want to have a band that brings the party, where it's fun and people singing and girls throwing their, you know, bras and panties up on stage, and it's nuts and drinking, and, you know, it's like a backyard barbecue, you know, New Year's Eve, Christmas, all that in one. To me, that's what Van Halen encapsulated in their shows, especially in the 80s, that party fun vibe. So, you know, that's all we wanted to do. And, you know,
Steve, no brown M&Ms in the Trixter rider?
Yeah. Hey, man, my name's Steve Brown. We always had brown M&Ms. But we
good point.
The promoters gave us all the ones Van Halen didn't have. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was always our thing. It was about being fun. So for us, yeah, there was always competition. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Any band that gets on stage, look, you want to kick ass and you want to show that you're the best band. Hey, man, I'll be your bro. I'll party. I'll drink beers with you after the show. But when I get up on that stage, no, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. You know, and that was it in the nicest possible way. You know, and if somebody blew up, you know, if their gear blew up, somebody's, you know, they needed extra guitar, it was always there, you know, which I think was much different, you know, than the LA scene. So, you know, again, my memories of, you know, again, with the Skid Row guys and, you know, I'm trying to think of any other, you know, just that's it. And, you know, most importantly, you know, more than that is the bigger guys like John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora, who were the guys who kind of took us under their wing. And at the beginning, you know, when John and Slippery When Wet took off, he was the first guy that we gave our Trickster demo tape to. And man, he called us on our, on Pete's answering machine. He left a message and said, hey man, I think you guys are great. He gave us Doc's address in New York City and said, keep sending me tapes. And every time we made a new demo, I would send it to him. And lo and behold, he would call back, hey man, I got your tape. You guys are getting better and better. And, it was very impressionable, and it was a big learning experience for us, and for me especially, as sort of the band leader and the main songwriter, as how to treat other bands, to help everybody. Snake and Rachel from Skid Row, man, those guys were the same way. John told them, hey man, take care of Steve and the Trickster guys, and they hooked us up with their lawyer and their business manager. And, the only thing we didn't get from them was Doc McGee, but, you can't have everything. But, again, getting back to it, that brotherhood with all the bands and how we took care of each other. And you know what? It's still there to this day. Because, the Skid Row guys and I talk all the time. We text each other, and nothing's ever changed. It's a really it's a great friendship, and and again, it's because I think we're from New Jersey. I think it's that Jersey, that kind of code that you take care of the brotherhood again.
It's great that you've absorbed that, and and just how the other bands treated you, that now, to give back. I guess imagine also maybe with any
pay it
perhaps
forward,
like
basically.
new and upcoming bands that you may take under your wing or take a liking to,
Of course. I mean, that's always, look, man, I'm always here. And especially, there's some great bands that, that are coming out of Jersey. There's a great band that I worked with when they were kids, this band called The Revel, who is coming up on the scene. And
my brother Paul Riario, it was I think you may know him. He's the tech editor for Guitar World magazine.
I know you, brother. Of course.
He said to say hello, by the way.
Hi, Paul. Yeah.
Paul just told me I went to go see Buck Cherry at Starland, and the Revel, is that how I pronounce it?
Yep.
They opened up for Buck Cherry, and I never knew that my brother played with the drummer in that band of the Revel. Yeah. But please go on, Steve, about them.
So again, look, I'm always here looking for, local talent and trying to help out. And I produce, I have a kid that I'm working with now who's actually playing bass for Eric Martin and I Saturday night at our gig at the
excellent.
Jason Colombini, he just played with Stars, Richie Rano. And, he's 19 years old, I think now. And he's, like the Revel, he's the upcoming and, super, super talented. He's recorded in the studio here, and I'm kind of mentoring him. And that's, again, that's what you can do to make sure that bands don't make mistakes, and sort of, anything that I can do to help out the way that, let's say, the Skid Row guys or the Bon Jovi guys helped us.
Excellent.
Tell me about like the trajectory. How did it go from Trickster being at the China Club, playing Studio One, to getting on the stages of major venues like Madison Square Garden? I mean, like, in between all that, were you being courted by major labels, or was it like MCA came out, offered you a great deal, and you took it? Like, if you could just kind of capsulize that, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was, you guys were there. It was one of those things where we just, every couple months, we hit a new plateau, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger to where it becomes undeniable. And at that point, in 1988, the band Trickster in the area, and especially, we started playing that place Studio One in North Newark, New Jersey.
Yep.
We were playing a lot out in Staten Island. We started branching out, playing South Jersey. So we became, like, once Skid Row got signed, it was like we were next in line. It was, there was no doubt in most people's mind who the next band that was going to get signed in this whole, and again, this was the top and the sort of top of the mountain of the 80s hard rock, to where MTV was playing everybody, and it was Cinderella, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Van Halen, you name it, Rat, Dokken. It was the sort of the pinnacle of it. So we were a part of that wave. And the labels started coming out. We met this management company, these guys, Ken and Joel, who were Shark Entertainment, who were sort of working under Peter Mensch and Cliff Bernstein, Q Prime, who managed Def Leppard and Metallica and Tesla. And so the first order of business, Trickster started, we got introduced to the Def Leppard guys, and Phil Collin and I became instant, friends. And, here we are 32 years later, the guy's like a brother to me. And that's how it really began, and getting in the big leagues and always being around. When Bon Jovi was somewhere, we would be there. When Skid Row was doing a show, we were always there, and that was, the networking aspect of it. How nowadays, you don't have to leave your house to network because you do everything on social media. It's all about that. Back in the day, you had to be on the scene. So we were in New York 3 nights a week, going to the Cat Club, going to the Limelight, wherever anything was happening, we were. If we heard that, John and Richie were doing a acoustic gig, some private, some secret gig, we would be there. If we knew Def Leppard was doing a private, I spent my senior prom with Def Leppard. I didn't go to my senior prom. Def Leppard was doing a Z100 Spirit contest at the Capitol Theater in Passaic. I was there, and my fucking car got towed that night too.
We've had the car towed, like going to the Capitol Theater and having the car towed. Yeah, I think everyone's experienced that went to that place.
Yeah.
Don't ever park in the Burger King parking lot, because they'll fucking tow you. So
wheels.
That's what it was, man. And it wasn't just, look, man, anybody will tell you, even this day, no matter what, music is only one part of a band becoming successful. It's the image. It's being on the scene, being there, being in the right place, and for some reason, we seem to have it all for that moment. And getting back to the whole record company thing, it was interesting, guys. When we started, getting courted, was because Peter Mensch, Def Leppard's manager, who arguably at that time was one of the most powerful people in the music business, because we know in 1988, Bon Jovi and Def Leppard were the 2 biggest bands in the world at that moment. Yep. And so Peter Mensch was going around every record label with our demo, with our tape that was produced by George Drakoulias, who went on to produce the first 2 Black Crowes records. So there was a lot of heat going on. And he was giving the tape to everybody saying, these guys are going to open up for Def Leppard on their next tour. So if that wasn't a good endorsement, and then the next thing you know, we have, I remember the A&R people from Geffen Records came to my mom and dad's house, and they wanted to sign us. And then it was Polygram, Mercury Records. It was everybody who was anybody was courting us, and it was really exciting. But I got to tell you, we didn't get a deal right away. And it was kind of, it was a little discouraging. I distinctly remember after Geffen came out to my mom and dad's house, we rehearsed for him, and we hung out. My mom made a couple people from Geffen made them sandwiches and ShopRite iced tea. And, I remember just going, PJ and I remember PJ didn't drive at the time. So afterwards I had to drive I had just gotten my license, and I had to drive him back from Paramus to Richfield. And I remember saying, man, can you believe this? It's happening. But long story short, we didn't get signed, and it was another 6-7 months later till we got our deal with Mechanic MCA Records. So we were like, oh my God, this is finally going to happen. But it didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen. But thank God Steve Sinclair from Mechanic MCA Records came and saw us. We did a gig, Sanctuary in New York City. It was us and Law and Order.
Man, I love that band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were great. We did a lot of gigs with them. And again, there you go. That was another band who was completely different from Trickster, but we did gigs with them, and it worked. It was a perfect marriage. They were kind of like the Cult. They were that New York City, Staten Island, dark, hard rock, AC/DC. And here we were like a Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Van Halen, fun, happy, pretty boy band, if you will. But it worked. And, we got signed that night. Steve Sinclair came, and his exact words were, when I saw you guys, when I saw Trickster, he goes, I knew you were going to be a band that I was going to be able to retire from. And it was true. It happened for him. And the rest is history from there. We went out to LA in the fall of late summer, fall of '89 to record our record. Every dream we ever had came true after that.
And Steve,
Awesome.
I read an interview with you about, like, your early musical, um, something that, in other words, that really struck you and made you jump into the pool of this musical world was, I think, was it your sister-in-law's? Is that right? When it was the Kiss record? Is that correct? I mean, is
It
that
is.
like your first? Is that the first memory that comes to you about? Hey, man, this is
This is
this
what I want to
really is
do.
rocking my world. I might want to make this something a career or something, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, again, that's the Kiss Rock and Roll Over. And the story is, it was 1978. I was by my brother Mike, my oldest brother Mike, his girlfriend at the time, Marianne, who's my sister-in-law now. I was over their house, and they lived right on Paramus Road. I used to work at the gas station that the family right on Paramus Road and Ridgewood Ave, the Exxon station, right on the corner.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was Marriott Paul Schmelzer, his gas station that he owned, and I used to work there as a kid. I used to work there. It was my part-time job that paid for my first Charvel guitar,
Oh,
that
nice.
I had to pay off my parents. But so 1978, I'm there, and I used to hang out there, and my brother would bring me over, and I just run around the house. And I remember vividly looking in his room and seeing on the floor Kiss Rock and Roll Over. I didn't know what it was, but I remember that it was like calling me. It was, the record was shaking. Smoke might have been coming out of it. It wasn't, but I'm just, it's a good story. But I remember picking it up and looking at the cover going, what is this? What is this? At that point, I had 245s as a little kid. The Lion Sleeps Tonight, by whoever that was, ooh, and I used to play that constantly. And I had Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys. Those are my two records that I owned at that point, which I don't even know if I owned them. But so Paulie, who was my sister-in-law's younger brother, he came in and he goes, "Hey man, you should take this record home. You'll like this." And I did. I took it home and I put it on my little my record player that I had in my room. And I remember dropping the needle down and hearing the acoustic guitars. You know what song? I Want You. And I remember hearing it going, oh, this is neat. It sounded like the Beatles to me. It sounded like Rod Stewart had that, Rod Stewart thing. And then all of a sudden, man, when the guitars and the drums, I want you. Dude, I swear to God, I was in a Kiss concert. The explosions were going off. It was that immediate and that powerful. And then listening to the rest of the record, Take Me, Calling Dr. Love. When I heard Calling Dr. Love and hearing Gene Simmons for the first time, that beginning, and it was spooky, man, I didn't know who he was at that point. But I kind of figured, I'm like, that's got to be him. Looking at the picture, that's got to be the Demon, and hearing Calling Dr. Love with that voice, you need my love, baby, oh so bad. It was just unbelievable, that immediate, that powerful, completely changed my life forever. And that, and then fast forward a couple months later, my neighbor up the street brought down the 8-track tape of Van Halen 1. And he goes, "Steve, I hear you like Kiss. You're going to love this band, Van Halen." And it was, what he told me was, Gene Simmons discovered him, and boom, I'm like, I put it in. I want to hear it. And I put it in. And again, it was it was the same sort of reaction, and especially hearing Eruption for the first time, to me, that was like, I knew what lead guitar was, I knew Johnny Be Good, and I knew the guitar solos that were on Rock and Roll Over. But when 1978, hearing Eruption for the first time, and when Ed got to the end, when he's doing the tapping part, that was otherworldly. I didn't, again, like most people, especially as an 8-year-old, or I could have been, I was 8 at the time. At that point, I didn't know what it was. It didn't sound like a normal guitar. Was that a synthesizer? Was it a violin? Well, I don't know what it was, but I needed to know. And a couple months later, I found out when I started taking guitar lessons at Musically Yours in Maywood, New Jersey. And, you know, again, those two records, still to this day, they're probably my favorite rock and roll records. And, you know, as you can imagine, they're so near and dear to my heart. But again, ask any Kiss fan or any Van Halen fan, I think it'd tell you the same. Those two records, you know, for my money, are the best of the best. And, you know, just life-changing, in so many ways. And, you know, fast forward, you know, another 15 years or what, 1978 to, you know, 1991, 92, when I first met Ed Van Halen, you know, for the first time, and then going on tour with Kiss in 1992, you know, meeting all of your heroes, and so, you know, becoming friends with them, you know. So it's you know, again, I say it all the time. I never want to sound like a broken record, but guys, you know, you're talking to one of the luckiest dudes in the world, you know, from Paramus, New Jersey. Every dream I ever had, musically and family wise, everything has come true 100 times over. And, you know, I mean, part of the reason, again, is living in New Jersey, Bergen County, where I grew up with great friends, great family, great atmosphere, great time. Growing up in the 80s, man, I try to tell my oldest daughter, Lily, you have no idea how much fun it was. You guys were there.
Oh, true.
Mm-hmm.
No cell phones. No, what I want to know, how did we do all the shit that we did, man?
Rode a bicycle, or used a payphone. It's like to call someone. Hey, can you pick us up at the like?
Totally.
And I'd be like 17, 18 years old. I tell my parents, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm going to Madison Square Garden to go see Iron Maiden. They're like, all right, see you, have a good time. Like, there were no phones back then. You know,
Right?
it's just like, they just tossed us out the door, and they knew we were going to be okay. You know, but oh man, those memories, like you said, you can't possibly translate it to, you know, today's generation, or because like you had to live and experience it.
Yeah.
But,
you know,
what was it like, Steve? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, what was it like when, after Trickster, like once you had, like had the videos, MTV, and, like your album had hit gold, and what was it like coming back to, I'm trying to think if it was the Continental or was it the Brendan Byrne Arena still? What was it like coming to the arena, your home turf, to play?
Yeah, I mean, the Meadowlands Arena, that's what it says on the ticket. So it was the Meadowlands at that time. That was the dream come true. You know, I did my, you know, PJ and I did our YouTube sort of little mini documentary about it. Look, that was what we wanted to do as Trickster. It was never about making videos, making records. It was the only thing we ever talked about when we were kids was playing the Meadowlands Arena, like Van Halen, like Kiss, like Bon Jovi, like Rat, you know, like Skid Row. That's all we wanted to do. And here it was, you know, April of 1991, coming to our hometown. Our record had just went gold, and you know, 1 in a Million, #1 on MTV for 13 weeks. I mean, it was just, we were on top of the world. So it was, again, it was every dream come to fruition, and that was the crowning moment for us, being able to, you know, finally play the Meadowlands Arena, in the arena that we would sneak backstage to every show, you know, and finally, all the security guys for years knew us, and they would always let us go back without passes, because I think they all believed in us, and I think they knew, these guys are going to make it big someday. And finally, I remember, you know, the night, you know, getting there and coming backstage and seeing the security guys, and finally showing my laminate, going, hey man, I finally really got a backstage pass this time. You know, we're legit. And but look, to play your hometown arena with your family and all your friends and all of the people, all the fans, and like I said, all the Bergen County, Passaic County, everybody from Jersey and New York, the close Staten Island, who helped make us become successful. And we're this was, like I tell everybody, all the cool things that I get to do in the music business, touring around the world, recording studios, everything. None of it means anything if I can't share it with my friends and my family. And that's the same like talking to you guys, sharing these stories. It means everything to me, whoever's watching this, to be able to tell you how great and how important growing up in New Jersey. And look at me. I'm a knucklehead from Paramus, New Jersey, who got to fly all over the world and play rock and roll and, hang out with Eddie Van Halen and play Wembley Stadium with Def Leppard. And yeah, I got a free T-shirt too. But, again, it's all about it. And I say it all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I don't do this for me. I do this for all of us. And that's you guys and everybody. And especially all around the world. If you're watching, yes, that's you. But it's really, for all my Jersey people, that's, where my heart and where I grew up. So that's where the roots are. So, that's really what it's all about. So playing the Meadowlands, and then we got to play there a year later, we got to play there opening for Kiss. So if you can imagine that, I mean, that was surreal, being able to, introduce my mom and dad to Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley backstage at the Meadowlands. That was a powerful, powerful moment.
It's just remarkable. I mean, the story of you. I mean, how old were you? 8 years old, I think, when you had rock and roll all over and looking at the cover. To go from that to, opening up for Kiss at Madison. It was at Madison Square Garden, I believe you were on.
No,
that was at the Meadowlands too. Yeah, we did the Meadowlands in Nassau with them.
Gotcha. Okay. And was Faster Pussycat on that tour? No.
They were.
Okay.
They were on that tour. It was us, Faster Pussycat, and Kiss. On the Revenge tour, which for a lot of non-makeup Kiss fans, that was their favorite. I think that's when Kiss kind of got all their pieces together. They figured out the image thing, and then that was pretty much the last tour that they did without makeup. Steve, and then a couple years later is when they reunited with Ace and Peter. So
yes. Steve, when are you writing a book? Because it seems like, when I was researching, and again, like I said, I've owned the 40-Foot Ringo records, all the Trickster records back when I was a youngin'. But it was exhausting because like how much your career spanned. It's just, I mean, like I haven't even touched on. There's so little I've touched on. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering, like, is there maybe like a book in your future, perhaps, or about?
I would definitely say so. I've said this before, guys, luckily for me, the career, I mean, I just turned 51 over the summer. And, look, I've said it before, this is the second half of my life. And I honestly believe that we're just getting started. I feel like as a musician, as a producer, as a writer, just as a person, I feel like I'm at the best point in my life, mentally, physically. I'm 2.5 years sober. I don't rock and roll all night and party every day anymore. So, I feel at this time that I feel like the best is yet to come. I mean, I vocally, as a singer, as a guitar player, as a writer, producer, everything, I feel like I'm at my best, and my last record that I did, Tokyo Motor Fist Lions, which we made here in my studio, I think it's the best thing I've ever done, all around, as a producer, writer, engineer, singer, guitar player, it's the best thing. So look, man, my goal is just to keep going. And, that attitude that I think, some people have as musicians where, oh man, I've been doing this for 40 years. I proved everything. I don't believe in that, man. I still believe no matter what age you are, you should still do your best and be at your best, and I think it's there's a thing going around this business with a lot of old rock stars where they can't sing anymore. So they're using backing tracks, or they have, offstage guys singing for them. Man, look, I'm really good friends. My good friend, Dennis DeYoung, 74 years old from, the singer of Styx. Dennis DeYoung, 74 years old. That guy, I still play with him from time to time. he still sings all those songs in the original key. He sounds as good as he ever did. Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, another one of these guys, man. So look, that's the game. And look, Mick Jagger's 79 years old, and that guy, for my money, he's as good as he was 20 years ago at 59. You know, those guys, the Stones, 79, 80 years old, and they're still crushing it out there, you know? And so that's the goal. So for me, writing a book right now, I think only half the story is told. And I think with everything that's going on, I wish I could tell you things, but, you know, I'm doing some really incredible things now with certain bands, you know, these iconic bands that I can't even tell you about, but I'm hoping that within the next 20 years, you know, these will be part of the book and you guys go, oh, now I get it. Now I know why he can't tell this story. But, you know, again, it's the love of it, you know, and at the end of the day, guys, this is what I love to do, you know, and it's just, it's
great
in
attitude
my blood
that you have, Steve. I just love, you know, that it's such a positive outlook that you have. And again, like you said, like, you know, this is still like, you know, the beginning chapters of your life, man. You've got so much more ahead of you. And I'm sure everyone is excited to see, you know, what the future holds for you with all these projects.
I hope so, man. And, you know, I mean, you guys talked about it. You know, I just released my first ever, which is crazy, my first ever solo single, you know, over the
really
Where
loved
Do We Run, you know, and it's like, you know, there you go. That's the beginning of a new chapter, because that's definitely something that I'm going to do. And I think, you know, I've said it before, but I'm probably going to release, you know, twice a year, maybe one song, 2 songs a year. So maybe by the time I'm like 60, 62, I'll have 11 or 12 songs. Then I'll put out my first solo record. And then, you know, maybe at that point I'll start getting ready and, you know, start writing down the book. But, I am going to, you know, I will tell you guys, and I don't think I've told anybody this, but I am going to start probably early next year. I am going to start filming myself, just telling my stories, you know, because I definitely, you know, I'm a huge fan, and I've really gotten into the whole documentary thing and footage. And, you know, I spent the last, you know, year and a half during the pandemic, you know, digitizing all of my, you know, footage, all of the Trickster stuff, my home movies, all the original analog tapes. So I'm really big on preserving the history. So, you know, that's something that I definitely, before a book, I'm going to start, you know, just telling all the stories, but really getting in depth. So I have it. And what I've got in my head is what I'm going to do is every year or every couple years, I'm going to start at the same spot. But so let's say when I'm 70, if we start editing documentary, you're going to see me telling the stories from, let's say, age 52 to age 70, and see where the difference, and hopefully my face doesn't get too messed up looking, but you know, it's going to be an interesting thing. But I have sort of, you know, I got ideas about how I want this to, you know, how I want it to look. And again, you know, I just watched PJ just turned me onto it, and I just watched the documentary on Netflix about the band Sparks, who was like one of my new favorite bands. I've heard of them. Oh man, you gotta watch this documentary. It is very reminiscent, kind of, I will say, kind of PJ and I, about guys who never stopped. And it's about two brothers, this band Sparks, who started in the 60s in California, who they kind of broke big in the UK. And I thought they were an English band. And if you see them, see their 70s Sparks, you'll think they're a British band, you know. And it's funny because when I heard about Sparks about 6 months ago, way before this documentary came out, I sent Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, my good buddy, an email. And I said, hey, man, what's up with this UK band Sparks? And he sent me an email back. He's like, they're not, you know, and Joe, they're not a British band, man. They're from Los Angeles. Come on, dude. And I'm like, holy shit. But watching the documentary, the one thing that when Sparks broke, everybody in the world thought they were a British band because they got their start like on Top of the Pops and the Old Grey Whistle Test. But you got to watch it. It's one of the best rock documentaries ever made, and I've watched them all, and I'm just, it's definitely, one of my passions in life. So, getting back to what I want to do with, whether it's Trickster or PJ and I, or my own story, is starting to get that stuff together. So, all you bands out there, if you have any footage, especially northern New Jersey, Bergen County bands, get in touch with me. I can help you out and lead you in the right direction, because there's an art to that, and you have to do it the right way. And especially when it comes to, baking tapes and transferring and doing all that stuff, sometimes you only get one shot at doing it, so you don't screw it up.
Great. Steve, speaking of your time with Def Leppard, how much time did you have when you found out, that you were, in both instances, covering for Phil Collen and then covering for Vivian Campbell? And was it challenging, to learn the parts, but just because each of their parts are so unique, not just musically, but when I say musically, I'm saying not just the guitar parts, but the vocal harmonies. Is that correct? I mean,
oh yeah.
That that you'd have to match up properly with Phil, or on the opposite side, match up properly with Vivian.
Right. Well, look, the friendship goes back 30 plus years. So when Vivian got diagnosed with cancer in 2013, Phil immediately went to Joe and Sav and said, I got my guy Steve, Steve Brown, who's, they were big fans, the whole band. They were huge fans of 40 Foot Ringo. And 40 Foot Ringo, for all you people who don't know, his band PJ and I have with Steve Maz from SS Steel, the atomic pop band, sort of Cheap Trick with crunchier guitars. We were going to go out on tour with Def Leppard, but it never worked out. Long story short, Phil and I, of course, we're singers also, as well as being guitar players. So as soon as they needed to find somebody, Phil went to everybody and said, I got the guy, Steve. And, Steve, 40 Foot Ringo, like, oh, that's perfect. He plays. And, I got the gig because I could sing, and sing all those, the high, pour some sugar on me, that perfect, scratchy Mutt Lange, voice, and also be able to do the super high parts. As Joe says, Steve can do all the Mutt parts, because Mutt would do all the super high, yeah. When you hang out with Def Leppard, it's hard, man, not to do the British, the accent.
You got it down.
Yeah, well, you spend enough time with them, and every night are we doing fucking Stonehenge tonight? No, we're not doing
a Spinal Tap reference there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But so when they brought me in, they had a summer tour booked for 2013, and so they sent me a hard drive with all the songs live, and I was able to learn everything in Pro Tools. I'm in my studio, so it really made everything really a lot easier than having to listen to the records. I was able to single out all the parts. But with Def Leppard, it always helps when you get asked to fill in for a band that they're one of your favorite bands. So not knowing all the stuff, I knew it already. You know what I mean? So learning it was not as hard as I thought you'd think it would be. But I got to tell you, the Def Leppard stuff is a lot more challenging, and the guitar parts and the vocal parts are a lot trickier than most people think. And that is the beauty of Def Leppard's writing, whether it's Steve Clark's, sort of non-traditional way of writing guitar parts and playing weird melodies, Phil, or, whoever wrote these parts, Sav, wrote a lot of the Def Leppard riffs and stuff like that. So it was a lot more challenging. And, Mutt Lange being the producer, you listen to it and it sounds so sweet and easy on the ears. But when you dive into it, it's really intricate. The arrangements some of them are strange. So it's not the standard, arrangement that I would be used to as a songwriter. So there were definitely some challenging aspects about it. But again, man, every day coming down to my studio to get to, oh, wait, what am I going to work on today? Oh, I got to chart out Gods of War, or I got to chart out, because at that time they were doing Hysteria in its entirety.
Yep.
So I had to learn all that. Plus they were doing a whole deep cut collection. So it was so cool for me because Def Leppard, the first song I ever heard from Def Leppard was Rock Brigade, the first song that I through the night. So to learn that, I mean, that was, for me, I love every part of Def Leppard, whether it's the On Through the Night, High and Dry, let's say the less produced part, but I loved learning all of it. And I love every, sort of incarnation of the Def Leppard sound, whether it's, the pre-Mutt Lang, the first record, I love it. It's my first thing. And I still think, and I still tell those guys, man, I would say to Sav, because he writes the set list. I go, can we just do Rock Brigade tonight? And he go, sorry, mate, can't do it. As much as you like it, most people will be going, they don't know the song, which is sad.
Yeah.
I learned Wasted, there was one night where I think we were going to try to play that, but that never worked out. But so I had a lot of time to get prepared for that. And then I went on the road with them in the summer of 2014 on the Kiss Def Leppard tour. And I got to do sound checks and rehearse and get my inner mix. So when I was going to do the shows and, my first real shows, which was Wembley, the NFL pregame thing at Wembley Stadium, that was my first show. And then 4 others. I was really well rehearsed at that point, though we never did a full show rehearsal because the Def Leppard guys, they don't like to rehearse. So I was like, you know the drill. And I had seen them so many times. I knew every move, every place where Viv needed to be. I knew every move that every guy in the band made. So, that was cool. And, again, one of the really neat things was being out with Kiss on that. And I remember doing one of the first sound checks I did with Def Leppard on the tour was at the SPAC, the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. Mm-hmm. And I remember strapping my guitar on and we do Hysteria was the sound check song. And I remember, man, we launch into it and it's cool and everything's sounding really great. Your in-ears, it sounds like you're playing to a record. It sounds so good. And I remember looking over my right shoulder, and there's Paul Stanley and Eric Singer watching. Paul Stanley's going like this. He's got a smile on, like a proud Uncle Paul watching me.
Oh, my God.
And it was like, I was like, holy shit, here I am fucking playing with Def Leppard. And there's one of my heroes, one of my biggest influences, Paul Stanley, watching me, do sound check with him. And so that was really special. And to be on that tour with Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, who are also very good friends. And, and of course they know all about being fill-ins. So it was cool to be, the first night I remember I went in the dressing room with Gene and Paul and Eric and Tommy and told them what's going on because they didn't know what was happening. And so it was really, and I could see that Gene and Paul were like, they were definitely really happy for me. And, it's kind of like, getting into like that next level of being in with the big boys, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. Crazy. Yeah, and Steve, I know we're coming up on the hour here, but I want to go over this tour that you're kicking off on. I believe it's November 26th. Is that right? At the Lamp Theater in Irwin, PA, right?
Irwin, PA, the Wizards of Winter.
So can you talk just a little bit about the Wizards of Winter? What is it? I read about the bio. Some of the band members that you're working with are real prominent musicians. That will be recognizable to our audience. The name of the bands that they're associated with.
Yeah. Well, the Wizards of Winter started about a decade ago by Sharon and Scott Kelly, who are Bergen and Passaic County people, Fair Lawn and where is it? Fair Lawn and Hawthorne area, whatever. And they started the band, and it was the love of Christmas, of course. And I believe TSO, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, was a big influence. And so they built this thing up, and I joined in 2019 and did my first 25-date nationwide tour with them. And it's been an incredible experience. And We've got some notable musicians in it. John O'Reilly, who's the drummer. He was in Rainbow for a little while. He was in an orchestra for 15 years. He was the original drummer in TSO. The bass player, who's also my bass player in Tokyo Motor Fist, the great Greg Smith, who was also in Rainbow, who played with Alice Cooper, and now is Ted Nugent's bass player and singer. So, just incredible. Another local Jersey guy singing, Manny Cabo, who was on The Voice. He's a Union, New Jersey guy. He's singing lead, and it's just a phenomenal show. It's kind of, again, it's a hard rock Christmas thing, symphony, orchestra type thing, keyboards, violin, flute, along with two great guitar players, myself and Fred Gorhau, who's a South Jersey guy, great guitar player. And we got 15 dates. We're going, pretty much just an East Coast tour this year. As we know, the COVID challenges are really hard to keep something out on the road, but we're going to be out on 2 tour buses and, doing it because, we feel that the people, it's getting to a point where people are starting to feel comfortable going out again, and with people being vaccinated and wearing masks and doing the right thing. A lot of these performing arts centers and theaters, these beautiful theaters that we get to play at around the country, are starting to open their doors again. So what better way than the Wizards of Winter doing their Christmas Dream tour for the whole family, because it's definitely a fun family show.
Yeah, excellent. I think it's just like the perfect, anybody who's looking for holiday ideas as far as sure, go ahead, go and see the Radio City Rockettes. But I think also this Wizards of Winter tour, I was watching some clips. It's just such an incredible display of musicianship, all around. You're going to be December 15th at the Bergen Performing Arts Center in Englewood. Great venue. So for any of our listeners here in New Jersey, please, buy tickets to that December 15th.
And then Southern Jersey, we're doing the Lavoie Theater, which is down, I believe down off the Turnpike somewhere. But so we're around, and we got a bunch of, we've got Staten Island at the end of December, and a couple Pennsylvania dates, which aren't too far. So there's definitely I think a date that anybody can make. Penn's Peak out in Pennsylvania, which isn't too far, in Jim Thorpe for all the Northern Jersey people. But it's definitely a lot of fun. And then this Saturday night, my bandmate and one of my dearest friends in the world, myself and Eric Martin, the great vocalist,
Mr. Big.
We'll be rocking the Debonair Music Hall in Teaneck, New Jersey. So everybody get out and come down and party with us. But
definitely. And
this is an acoustic show, right? Right, Steve?
Yeah. This is the Acoustic Glory Tour that I like to call it.
Ah, nice.
It's going to be cool, man. I'm going to start the show out doing a couple Trickster songs, and we got a little bit of I got my keyboard friend Chris McCoy, who plays with Tokyo Motor Fist and also plays in the Ted Poley band. He's playing keyboards, and I got Jason Draven playing bass. So it's going to be, and we got Ben Hans playing a little percussion. So yeah, it's going to be acoustic, but it's not going to be 2 guys with acoustic guitars. It's going to have a little bit of low end and, some excitement. I'm going to be doing a little acoustic shred guitar work. So,
awesome.
Can't wait to hear that.
A little, and a little, Spanish Fly or Bergen County Fly.
There we go.
Ripping on the guitar.
Put your own spin on it.
Trying to play some of that Mr. Big stuff. Gotta have it.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah. And also say December 17th, Tokyo Motor Fist releasing a limited edition color vinyl reissue of their self-titled debut album. I highly recommend both of those Tokyo Motor Fist records, by the way. They are fantastic. There's only going to be 300 copies available, so go to the Frontiers Music homepage, scroll down to the heading that says vinyl, and order it.
Yeah, and also go to my favorite vinyl store, Sound Exchange in Wayne, New Jersey, which is is going to definitely have some copies of it. And I'm a big vinyl guy, so this is a dream come true to finally have what I like to say, the Fist on vinyl.
Sweet.
Did you have a question, Nick? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Steve, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you on social media? Where can they find you as far as website? Promote yourself.
Yeah, Steve Brown Rocks, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. SteveBrownRocks.com is a website, and I'm around. You can find me. I'm not too hard. Not too hard to find. And like I said, we'll be out on the East Coast rocking it for the next couple weeks, and I look forward to seeing everybody. And hopefully again, all you Jersey people, we gotta see you. Skada dietz, skada dutch. We'll see you at the Bergen Pack.
Steve, just to close the episode down, one final question. What is it that you attribute the popularity of music festivals like Rocklahoma and M3, which have bands like Warrant, Dokken, Extreme, Vixen, and Slaughter? Like, what is it about that the 80s era of those, the bands of that ilk that has stood the test of time and is as endearing as ever? That's what I want to. That's the final question. You take it.
Well, again, what did we say before? Growing up in the 80s was the greatest time in the world to grow up. And, those bands, Warrant, Trickster, Firehouse, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, we represent all fun. Good, clean fun. Well, maybe not all clean fun, but you know what I mean? It was the greatest. And people, look, we all want to time travel. If we could go back to 1988 again, I'm sure we'd all do it. I'd pay a lot of money to do it. You know what I mean? To be able to go back for one night, But these shows enable people to sort of do that, where you can go and you could see, M3 Festival, which is, what's cool about that, Eric Baker, who is the main promoter on that, he's a Jersey guy. He's from Livingston, and he used to work at MCA Records, and he worked the first Trickster record. So I get to go play this festival, M3, down in Maryland with the guy who helped make Trickster become successful. And
fantastic.
And be with all of our friends. So I love playing all these festivals because we get to be, it's like a messed up high school reunion, rock and roll high school reunion, where all the bands are together. We're hanging in each other's dressing rooms, eating each other's food, drinking each other's beer, and it's just one big party. So, I love doing these, the rock festivals. We'll be out. Tokyo Motor Fest will be out in February of 2022 doing the Monsters of Rock cruise. And
wow.
Those. Yeah, those are great. I just got back from the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling cruise with my 80s show, Rubik's Cube. Yeah. So Chris is a dear friend, one of my great friends.
Fozzy, yeah.
PJ is the new bass player in Fozzy. So
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
PJ Farley. Yeah. Congrats to him.
So you gotta have PJ on the show to talk about.
Yeah, right.
Oh, there we go.
Because he's from Ridgefield, New Jersey. So that's a whole nother different thing, man. When PJ joined the band, driving up, he didn't drive yet, so we used to have to go pick him up for rehearsals. Driving up there the first couple times, man, that was like might as well have been going to Staten Island, man. It was like, another world for us.
Totally right.
And to end things off, PJ, we usually like to play like a little quick game. I PJ. Steve. Right. Sorry, we kept saying PJ.
PJ would be honored,
Yes. We were thinking about him.
Yeah, we finish each other's sentences,
Nice.
Right.
We like to usually play a little quick game, and I have one for Jersey rockers. What exit? So basically, tell me the town where in New Jersey these rockers were born or grew up. So how about what one of your, I believe, influences, Richie Sambora? Where was he born, or where did he grow up?
I think he was born I think he was born in Newark. He was born in, but grew up in Woodbridge, Perth Amboy. So exit 129.
Yes, exit 129, and he was actually born in Perth Amboy.
Right.
And raised in Woodbridge, as you said.
Yeah.
Jeez, Steve, you're good at this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, Steve has
right
like the Jersey music knowledge. Like,
Go on, Nick.
How about this one, Glenn Danzig? Where's he
Oh,
born? And
and Danzig grew up in Lodi, New Jersey.
there we go.
That's where my wife Cosette's from Lodi. We know all those guys, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember.
Jerry, Steve Zing, all the Danzig, and all the Misfits guys.
Yep.
Yeah, Lodi's a lot of friends there.
Yeah, I remember going to Wild Mike's on Essex Street in Lodi back in the day.
Oh, Wild Mike's. I still talk to Wild Mike once in a while.
Oh my God. Yeah, I built a computer for him years ago.
Small world.
How about the late Pat Nizio of the Smithereens?
Yeah, well, he was weren't they from, I know Dennis Dykin's a very good friend of mine. I love Dennis. Weren't they from Keyport or Union? So one.
Well, the band was from Carteret.
Carteret.
But Pat himself.
Rahway? No.
Not Rahway. He was born in Plainfield and he raised in Scotch Plains.
Yeah, okay. Scotch Plains. Yeah. But what's funny? Our manager in Trickster, they were from Clark, and they knew Pat. But yeah, God rest his soul, man.
Yeah,
talented guy.
Love Pat.
Me too. Yeah.
How about a little closer, Sandy Soraya?
Oh God,
Rochelle
I had that
Park.
record.
Right, Rochelle Park.
No, not. You got to go the opposite direction.
Pagoda, right?
Yep, Pagoda. There we go.
That's right. Oh,
Nice.
I love Sandy.
We don't have any sound effects in this cheap show. What's going on? Like ding, ding, ding.
And last one, Joe Lynn Turner, who you have played with.
And yeah, right.
Of course.
To work with them.
Joe Linguido, Hackensack, New Jersey, Summit Ave.
There we go. I used to live right by him.
Yeah,
I still live in Hackensack.
I've told this story numerous times, but I used to ride my bike over to Joe Lynn Turner's house, his house on Summit Avenue, and we used to bring him demo tapes of Trickster. And Joe was always so great, and I love that guy, and his old bandmate Chuck Berge is the drummer of Tokyo Motor Fist. So
there we go.
I've known Chuck and Joe since I was a young. I was 12 years old. I think the first time I met Chuck. Chuck and Joe, and and then the other great local Bergen County legend is Richie Rano from Stars, who was the first real rock star I ever met as a little kid. I met him at the Two Guys Carnival. Summer Carnival.
Was that the
where Caldor was?
Oh, right.
I remember where Caldor was. Yeah.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Right, it was but it might have been even Caldor, but I think it was still Two Guys. But I remember, this is a great story because I messed this up because I remember I did a gig with Joe Lynn Turner years ago and Richie was there. And I told the story where I said Joe Lynn Turner was the first rock star I ever met. And it wasn't. It was Richie Rano from Stars. And it was at this thing. And I saw him and I was already this was probably 1980. So I was a huge Kiss Van Halen fan, had all the magazines. And I remember, I think it was Rock Scene magazine. There was this great picture of Kiss and Stars when they toured together, where they're all backstage. And I remember, and I knew that, Stars was kind of New Jersey, New York based. And I remember, and I saw Richie there and he had a black leather jacket. He looked cool as hell. And I walked up to him and I tugged on his jacket. He had his son was on one of the rides. And I said, "Hey, aren't you Richie from, and he goes, "Yeah, what do you think? I'm Richie Blackmore?" And I go, "No, you're Richie Rano." I was like, "No, you're Richie Rano from Stars." And it's fucking true story, man. And he gave me, I'll never forget it. He gave me a Kiss backstage pass, the 1970, which I have. It's not the same one, but it's from the 75 tour. And he gave me a Kiss backstage pass and a Cheap Trick backstage pass.
Oh, and that's incredible.
And man, it was just unbelievable. And then, as years went on, of course, I became really good friends. Richie's a dear friend and I love him, but that's the true story. So Rich, I'm sorry. You are number one. You are the first rock star I ever met. and we're still friends to this day. You know, probably not to tell everybody how old you are, but you're definitely, you know, one of my oldest rock star friends.
What a great way to close the show. Man. Oh, God.
That is incredible.
Excellent story there,
Steve. Thank you so much for being our guest tonight.
Thank you,
and thank you for representing New Jersey, especially Bergen County.
Please keep carrying the torch for us.
Yes, I love, you know, again, you guys know how much I love New Jersey, especially Bergen County. You know, you guys, all of you, you're near and dear to my heart. I love you, and we'll see you soon.
Definitely, Steve.
Excellent.
We'll see you out there on tour.
Cheers.
Good luck with everything. You deserve it, man. You're
Thank you.
real true legend. Thank you.
Excellent. And for What Exit Jersey Stories, I've been Nick Franco.
I'm Pete Riario.
And our guest has been
Steve Brown.
Thank you, everyone.
One and only.
Take care.
Cheers.